I want to talk about the Amish today. I think a lot of us think of the Amish based on what they drive, like a horse and carriage versus a car, or what they wear. They wear like a pilgrim outfit or a Puritan type outfit. But there was the most crazy study that was done on the Amish, or study of the Amish that was done related to health outcomes. It's actually nuts. So Steve Kirsch conducted this study. I don't know if you've heard of Steve Kirsch or not. You probably have. He's a tech millionaire. He's worth like $250 million. And he made a name for himself after he became a tech millionaire. He made a name for himself by getting into the medical experiment field, meaning during the beginning of COVID, he put a ton of money towards trying to figure out if we had an existing pharmaceutical drug that could treat COVID-19 versus going through the whole development process. Well, he conducted a study on why the Amish did not die from COVID when the rest of Americans did. And this is what he found. He testified in front of the Pennsylvania State Senate. Take a listen.
Let's talk about the Amish. Yesterday, I drove to Lancaster County. I drove to Amish country. I drove from house to house to house. I actually went to the house of a relative of Gideon King. He's the one person, the only known person in the Amish community who supposedly died from COVID that I'm aware of. Now, they say there may be up to 5 people in Lancaster County who died from COVID, but I was unable to get the names of 5 people. I offered $2,500 reward on Twitter. Hey, give me the names of more than 5 people in Lancaster County who died from COVID. Not a single person was able to name more than one person. They all named Gideon King. One guy. So I talked to I actually went to the house of Sam King, who's a relative of Gideon King, and I talked to Sam. He doesn't know if Gideon actually died from COVID or not. He died in the hospital. They think it was COVID, but maybe he died from the COVID hospital protocols. Okay? So you look at the Amish. I did the calculation. Let's say there were 5 Amish people, because people say, I think there were maybe a few, or maybe there were 5 Amish people. But and then I asked them, okay, can you name them? And nobody can name them. But let's say that we could name them, and there were 5 Amish people who died.
Doesn't that just hit you in the gut? Like watching that, I've watched that multiple times now, and it's, in a sense, it's infuriating because we have a case study for how to facilitate health, and we are experiencing the opposite of that in our country. It's not, he's right, but he's also, there's an additional element to this. So it's not just that the Amish didn't mask and didn't social distance. It's also because of the lifestyle of the Amish leading up to the quote unquote pandemic. Think about what the Amish do. They do not ingest chemicals. They do not ingest pharmaceuticals. They do not use technology. They actually grow their own food, which means they have a healthy diet. Listen, I've spent my life in this halfway point between conservative politics and leftist health viewpoints. And what I mean by that is up until the pandemic, people who lived what I call a crunchy alternative lifestyle, like going to the chiropractor and taking probiotics and using natural supplements, those are mostly people that were like the crunchy hippy dippy people, especially those who also questioned vaccines. It was like the anti-vaxxers were all leftists, right? This was a leftist thing. Conservatives weren't on board with this. So I spent half my life in this very conservative world of politics. And I also spent my life in this kind of leftist alternative medicine environment. It never made sense to me why it was leftists who were in the alternative medicine community. It doesn't make sense to me at all, actually, because the bigger government is, the more they regulate that stuff. The bigger government is, the more that they mandate stuff. So actually having the individual choice to do things alternatively and to go against the CDC or to pick another option, not just like traditional Western medicine, it never made sense to me why leftists were the ones in that camp and why conservatives, who traditionally have challenged institutional, quote unquote, experts, technocracy, it never made sense to me why conservatives didn't get on board with that. But we've seen a huge shift, right? Finally, During COVID, a lot of conservatives who kind of just went along with it were like, oh, whoa, wait a second. Maybe Big Pharma, maybe the CDC isn't correct here. Maybe our pediatricians don't know what's best. And so there's been a huge shift. There's been an enormous shift, which I am delighted to see. Come and join me over here in Crunchy Land. Come and join me in the land of trying to avoid chemicals. My life is basically an exercise in trying to exist in the Western world and do my health the way that the Amish do their health. Because this next video that I'm going to show you is super crazy. Steve Kirsch did an additional study. He didn't just talk anecdotally with families in Lancaster County. He didn't just calculate that Amish people were 90 times less likely to die from COVID-19. He also did a little investigation into chronic disease. We in America are suffering from a major epidemic of chronic disease. Autoimmune diseases are like we've never seen them before. Childhood chronic diseases are unreal. Almost more children have a chronic disease than children who don't. This is not normal. The medical community tries to make it normal. They try to say, don't put a stigma on it. This is just how children are made. That's not true. That's not true at all. And Steve Kirsch talks about exactly what is being done to children, but not to Amish children, that accounts for the difference, not just in COVID outcomes, not just in overall health, but in childhood diseases. I'm going to show you that in just a second. But first, ladies and gentlemen, my friends at Genucel have extended your chance to get their most popular package featuring beautifully curated skincare essentials for life outside in the summer sun. Sun-soaked, humid, dehydrated skin covered in dark spots, even puffy bags under the eyes. Let's admit it, it's a problem for all of us, but thankfully, Genucel has the perfect answer. Genucel's limited time summer essentials package includes their one-of-a-kind ultra retinol super moisturizer with a powerful plant extract, actually. It's a retinol alternative that delivers results without the harsh side effects and is perfectly safe to use in that summer sun. And right now you can get Genucel's classic skincare therapy for under eye bags and puffiness that will get you compliments everywhere you go. Plus, with its immediate effects, results guaranteed in 12 hours or less, or your money back. Go to Genucel.com/Liz right now to get your Genucel Summer Essentials package for over 65% off. And just for the summer, every subscription order includes a customized summer spa gift box, absolutely free, and for one more week, as if it could get any better. Every Summer Essentials package includes their nourishing vitamin C serum for a visibly clear complexion. Don't wait. Go to Genucel.com/Liz. That's GENUCEL.com/Liz. Genucel.com/Liz. Okay, the second video that I'm going to show you is Steve Kirsch taking this just a step deeper. It's also because of what the Amish, the lifestyle and the choices that the Amish have made related to early childhood decisions. And the manifestation of this is quite telling.
They tried to get the CDC to do a study of the vaccinated, fully vaccinated versus the fully unvaccinated. In 2005, CDC Director Judy Gerberding promised to do such a study. She said, yes, we should do such a study. It's important that we do a study now. We can refine it later. And that was nearly 20 years ago. And that study has never been done. And it will never be done.
It will never be done. It will never be done. Of course it will never be done. It will never be done because the results of that study would fly in the face of everything that the CDC is trying to shove down our throats, related to diet, related to pharmaceuticals. This industry, I mean, you guys know this. We all know this at this point. It's just a matter of what we're going to do about it. We know that Big Pharma is exploiting us. We know that Big Food is essentially poisoning us, and then Big Pharma is profiting off of pretending to prescribe us the antidote to the poison that Big Food feeds us. And all the while, the government regulation agencies are just revolving doors in Big Food and Big Pharma. They're approving things that shouldn't be approved. They're not safe. They haven't been studied. They're not good for you. They're not healthy. They're dangerous. They're gross. And this is the result. We have a control group. We have the Amish here that show us exactly what health looks like. If you eat healthy and you avoid pharmaceuticals and you avoid medical procedures that haven't been studied against a control group, then your health outcome is completely different. Completely different. This is the reason that you and I don't trust the CDC. This is the reason that there's been a huge cultural shift, especially among conservatives, about the experts, why we don't defer to the experts. While the CDC, let me put it this way. While the CDC is refusing to do a study of the Amish who live a very, what I would call crunchy alternative lifestyle. They don't vaccinate, they eat healthy, they don't use pharmaceuticals, they don't ingest chemicals, they don't use electricity. While the CDC is willfully neglecting to do this study, they, on their website right now, the CDC is promoting instead chest feeding for transgenders. Now, what is chest feeding for transgenders, you might be asking? Well, I shudder to even describe it to you, but here's what it is. A biological male who identifies as female, thinks that he's a woman, thinks that the baby that was created for him via a surrogate that he is the mother to that child. He thinks he's the mother to that child. He wants to breastfeed it. Doesn't want to call it a breast because, I don't know, is that misgendering boobs or something? I don't even know why he doesn't want to call it a chest. The CDC doesn't want to gender breastfeeding, so they call it chest feeding. The CDC is giving directions for these men who are cosplaying women, and as if that's not bad enough, indulging delusion, leading someone onto the road of the quote-unquote gender-affirming model, which ruins their bodies for life. They're not even thinking about what this does to the baby. Imagine a baby suckling at the chest of a man who is pretending to be a woman. Is this safe for the child? Is this nourishing for the child? The answer to anyone with a shred of common sense is no, it's not safe, and no, it's not nourishing. This is bizarre, this is perverted, this is grotesque, this is unscientific and weird. And yet the CDC, this is what they say on their health equity considerations portion of their website. If you look under the infant and young child feeding toolkit, they say that transgender, this is a quote, and non-binary gendered individuals may give birth and breastfeed or feed at the chest feed. Then if you go to their breastfeeding portion, it again mentions chest feeding. It says, can transgender parents who have had breast surgery breastfeed or chest feed their infants? The CDC then answers their own question by saying, yes, some transgender parents who have had breast, quote, top surgery, top surgery, may wish to breastfeed or chest feed, a term used by some transgender and non-binary parents, their infants. Healthcare providers working with these families should be familiar with medical, emotional, and social aspects of gender transitions to provide optimal family-centered care and meet the nutritional needs of the infants. They never talk about what's best for the baby here. Just something for us to note. Family-centered care, but like, what is a family? A family is supposed to be a man and a woman who are raising children that they created together, and it's supposed to be oriented towards what's best for that child, but not according to the CDC. In fact, the CDC says that transgender patients or transgender parents may need help with their milk supply, producing milk. They may need to supplement with formula or donor human milk, or they may need medication. Medication, look at that. It says at the bottom, medication to induce lactation. So this is the part that stuck out to me. Medication to induce lactation. So if you have a male here, a man who is not biologically qualified to breastfeed, and you give him pharmaceutical drugs to induce some kind of secretion out of his man boobs, what's going to happen? Well, not only is that not going to nourish the infant, it's also going to pass on that drug to the baby. It's going to pass on that pharmaceutical chemical concoction to the baby. In fact, the FDA has a warning on one of these drugs that would be used, given to a man if he wanted to try to secrete what he thinks is breast milk. This is what the FDA warns, that this drug, domperidone, can, quote, pass into breast milk in small amounts and can sometimes give babies an irregular heartbeat as a result. Can you believe it? Can you believe it? This is why we don't listen to the CDC, because while the CDC won't do a study about why the Amish are healthy and why Americans are unhealthy, they simultaneously tell men that they can breastfeed if they drug themselves, ignoring the serious physical repercussions that has on babies who are forced to consume that secretion, that fake hormone-laced secretion. It's disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting. And meanwhile, what's happening at the Ivy League? Wait till you hear what an Ivy League doctor wants. She wants body cams on doctors aimed at you. We're going to talk about that in just a second, but first I want to talk to you about ExpressVPN. Do you know what big tech and big government have in common? They both want to silence any dissenting voices into submission. Let's say you're a proud gun owner, for example. You want to talk on social media about the right to keep and bear arms. Well, chances are that your post will be flagged by a content moderator on big tech, and who knows, God forbid you might end up on some kind of government watch list to boot. In order to fight back against having your voice censored by both big tech and big government, I highly recommend ExpressVPN. When I use ExpressVPN, they cannot see my IP address at all. My identity is anonymized by a secure VPN server, plus ExpressVPN encrypts 100% of my internet data for protection from hackers and eavesdroppers. There's a lot of people out there, hackers, eavesdroppers, big tech, big government. ExpressVPN also could not be easier to use. You don't have to be tech savvy. The app has one button. You just tap it and you're protected. That's it. So stop letting big tech, stop letting big government censor and track you. Defend your rights. Protect yourself at expressvpn.com/Liz. That's expressvpn.com/Liz to get 3 months free if you use my URL. expressvpn.com/Liz for 3 months free. You'll be glad that you did. So meanwhile, an Ivy League doctor by the name of Dr. Amanda Calhoun, she's 28 years old. Maybe this shouldn't surprise us. Is that Gen Z, a 28-year-old? Or is that like the oldest millennials? I think that's like right on the borderline. She's probably like 1 year into, she's like the 1 year into being a millennial, meaning like she's right at the bottom there. But they've caught, those young millennials have caught a little bit of the Gen Z wokeness, I think. Well, Dr. Amanda Calhoun, we can show her on the screen. She serves as the co-vice chair of the Diversity Council of the Yale Resident Fellow Senate. That's a mouthful of a title, but the purpose of this is she's an influential doctor at Yale. She wants doctors to wear body cams. Like, imagine that for a second. Imagine if you go into the ER with anything. It doesn't matter if it's a heart attack, or if it's a UTI, whatever it might be. And your doctor walks in and your doctor's got like a cam on their head, or like a cop, a body cam like right on their chest. Can you even imagine how violating that would be? Like, it's unfathomable to me that that would even be proposed. Like, what an absolute moron this woman is. No patient would ever consent to this. But the reason that she wants this, aside from just the insanity of the proposition to begin with, the reason that she wants doctors to wear body cams is because she wants these body cams to help detect racism. Yes, so it's basically critical race theory. It's not racism. What she wants is she wants white doctors to have body cams so that, I don't know who, assumedly some panel of quote unquote experts, woke experts, can creep on patient interactions, doctor-patient interactions, to swoop in if they see any doctor that's not being woke enough. Any doctor that's not, maybe propagating health equity. Remember what health equity is? It's actually racism where you treat people not based on the science of the thing, but you treat people based on the color of their skin. Like, you deprive white people of treatment because they have white skin and give it to black people because they have black skin. That's like woke medicine, which they call health equity. This Ivy League doctor wants doctors to wear body cams so that, she doesn't say who, would detect this racism. But that's the thing, like, again, put yourself in a doctor's office. Like, you tell your doctor about your vulnerabilities, right? Like, medical problems are sometimes embarrassing. They're certainly private. It's bad enough to have to talk to a doctor about them. And then you're recorded on a camera that could what? Like, could it be hacked? Could it be released? Like, is big tech and big government gonna abuse this? Or is it just going to be watched by some panel of wokesters who's going to try to get your doctor? This is so bananas to me. It's one of those stories that I almost struggled to believe at first. I was like, well, is this like the Babylon Bee? Has this been taken out of context? Is this really accurate? And I read it and I looked into it, and it is in fact true. It's real. It's very, very real. And this is why we don't trust the medical community, because it's not just the CDC. It's not just Big Pharma. It's not just Big Food. It's also the medical schools that are training doctors. Dr. Amanda Calhoun is an example of a powerful, influential doctor at an Ivy League medical school who wants your privacy completely violated. Like, imagine being, what's the most targeted demographic in our country right now? It's by wokeness. It's white males, white middle-aged males. So imagine you have like a 40-year-old white male Christian doctor who's interacting with patients. He's an incredible doctor. Let's just say he's an incredible doctor. And what's going to happen to him? What's going to happen to him if he wears this body cam? We're going to talk about that in just a second. But first, I want to talk to you about revolutionary relief. Are you suffering from joint and muscle pain? You might be. You probably are, because 52 million US adults claim to fight this every day. And I want to tell you about a new product that can help you. It's called Revolutionary Relief. Now, I realize there are a lot of pain products on the market these days making a lot of different claims. So we should start by asking what makes Revolutionary Relief different from these other products? The answer to that is their Duo for Pain system. This is how it works. First, you have a topical roll-on, it's FDA registered, that goes to work directly on painful joints and muscles from the outside. This provides immediate relief. And then the gel capsules tackle inflammation inside for long-lasting relief. Both products contain natural botanicals, along with a patented, actually a plant-sourced ingredient called Canopia Active. It's scientifically tested and shown to be 3,500% more effective than similar natural pain products while being absolutely safe. And right now, you can try Revolutionary Relief with this special limited time offer for free. Revolutionary Relief is so confident that you will see and feel the difference. They're offering their Duo for Pain system free. Yes, it really is free. That's 2 products. Roll-on and gel's absolutely free, but you can't wait. The free offer is only good for the first 1,000 orders. So go to revrelief.com/free. You won't be disappointed. That's revrelief.com/free. So imagine the most targeted racial demographic in our country. And when I say most targeted, I mean targeted by wokeness. It is a middle-aged white male Christian. So you have this middle-aged white male Christian doctor, and say he's a really good doctor. Say he saved a lot of people's lives. Say he has a really nice bedside manner, but he practices via a Christian worldview. He rejects Marxism. He rejects leftism. Maybe he's a good, solid conservative. Maybe he's one of the good ones. Imagine what he's going to face if he wears a body cam. Like even take patient privacy and the insanity of that idea out for a second. This man's going to be targeted the way that Kavanaugh was targeted. It's going to be like Me Too on steroids plus critical race theory. It's going to be a nightmare. It's going to be thought crime after thought crime after thought crime. If you aren't an active propagator of critical race theory and queer theory, outright racism and Marxism in the medical field, rejecting science in favor of a poisonous satanic ideology, then you're going to be ruined. Your reputation is going to be damaged. They're going to try to make an example out of you. It's the most horrendous idea in the world, and it's why this is like the next thing that I see for conservatives, right? We've had our eyes opened about the education system. We've had our eyes opened about the administrative state. We haven't quite figured out what to do about the administrative state, but we all agree that it's a problem. We've had our eyes opened about so many of these different things. I mean, obviously, entertainment, that our eyes have been opened for a while, but especially education and the administrative state. We've really realized the problem that we're facing, in the threat that we're facing from those 2 areas. This is the next place. This is the next thing that I see for conservatives. We have to fight back against this cartel. We have to fight back against big food and big pharma and the regulatory bodies in the United States government that are rejecting science in favor of harming Americans' health. Like this is our health we're talking about. We all have a loved one who suffers from one of these chronic conditions, whether it's cancer, whether it's diabetes, whether it's heart disease, whether it's an obesity-related illness, whether it's autoimmune issues, whether it's autism. We all know and love people who are suffering. And here's the thing. Much of it is needless suffering. We have evidence, scientific evidence, that many of these things are not just things that happen. They're not arbitrary. They're things that are happening because of this big food, big pharma government cartel that's ignoring science in favor of profiting, and they're hurting us while they're doing it. Okay, the affirmative action ruling from the United States Supreme Court, I mean, one of the best rulings that we've heard in a long time. I was on vacation when this ruling happened, so you heard a great breakdown of it by Josh Hammer. I really liked that episode of Josh's, by the way. If you guys haven't watched it, I highly recommend that you do. But here's a really interesting poll that came out following the affirmative action. So a little context here. The left is telling us that this is like a return to white supremacy or something equally stupid and nonsensical. They're telling us that without affirmative action, there was a White House spokesperson that actually said without affirmative action, Black students aren't going to succeed, which is like the most insulting, the most just abjectly racist thing you could say. Oh, really? Black students aren't smart enough and capable enough to actually do things themselves. They need the government to come in and do things for them to make them able to compete with white people. Like, of all the absolutely insulting racist views, that's the view of the left. That is what the left says, but it's not actually a view of the left. It's a view just of the leftist ruling class, the leftist elites, the leftist politicians. Democrat voters are opposed to affirmative action. So this was the poll. The question was, do you approve or disapprove of the Supreme Court's ruling on affirmative action? And white people, 65% approve, 23% disapprove. Hispanics, 45% approve, 30% disapprove. Black people, 43% approve, and 36% disapprove. So the major racial demographics in our country, these are white people, Hispanic people, and black people make up the majority of people in our nation. They all approve of it. It's just the white liberals in the swamp in Washington, D.C. who disagree with this, who want to propagate racial discrimination in our institutions, in our country. Also funny, this is from a reporter at the Free Beacon. His name is Aaron Sabarium. He was reporting on affirmative action, and he shared this. I suppose it's anecdotal, but still. This anecdotal tweet, I want to bring this up on the screen, about the downstream effect of the Supreme Court overturning affirmative action. This is what he tweeted. A lawyer in big law told me today that the firm's corporate clients are all reaching out in the wake of Students for Fair Admissions, that's the affirmative action case, to ask if their diversity policies are legal. In most cases, even liberal attorneys are telling them no. So this I find really interesting. This is what I was hoping would happen when the Supreme Court overturned affirmative action. When they overturned affirmative action, it applied kind of narrowly to the admissions process for institutions of higher learning, or quote unquote institutions of higher learning. It's hard to call colleges and universities that in this day and age. But that's what this case was related to, obviously. It was related to the Harvard admission process that discriminated against Asian students, that you had to get an SAT or ACT score so much higher if you were Asian than if you were white, and so much higher if you were white than if you were Hispanic, and higher, or Hispanic and black. It was just racial discrimination against Asians and white people. But the hope has always been, and this is what I've hoped, the hope has been that this would cause quote unquote diversity policies at corporations in addition to schools to be rendered illegal, that you can't hire someone or you can't discriminate against someone on the basis of their race. You can't refuse to hire a white man because he has white skin, because that's racist. And that this Supreme Court opinion would have a downstream effect of rendering DEI to be completely illegal. This is, I think, a very hopeful sign that corporate clients, and corporate clients, those are all the big corporations in our country that propagate DEI in pursuit of their ESG score, that they are fearing the same thing. And that even liberal lawyers, leftist lawyers who like this stuff, they want to support it, that they're advising their corporate clients that, no, DEI is not going to be legal given this precedent set by the Supreme Court. I find that to be incredibly, incredibly important, and even more than important, incredibly delightful to see that the majority of the American people, when asked about affirmative action, reject it. Absolutely reject it. It's so difficult sometimes not to feel discouraged, like, oh my gosh, wokeness has taken over everyone and everything. There's nobody that has common sense views. But here, my friends, is an example of the majority of people who still reject racism. It's only our politicians that embrace it. All right, it's time for one more cool thing. It is a video brought to you by my producing team called If Straight People Talked Like LGBTQ. All right, guys, let's have it.
If you are straight, first of all, I want to tell you that I love you. I see you. I hear you. And I just want to spread some straight joy, because being straight is special. It's divine. It's divine. Yet even though people are out to get us and attack us, and that straight people are the ones that experience the most violence in this country, I just want you to know that you will make it through this because you're divine. And I also really want to know, what's your favorite part about being straight? Like, tell me all the things that you love about being a straight person, because I know that for me, it's given me all fulfillment and joy and satisfaction to be straight. So just know that I see you. I love you. We're not going to be erased. I love you, my straight friends.
That is hilarious. The funny part is that in today's era, our cultural moment that we're in, it's almost impossible to discern satire from reality, because she's making this joke, she's making this video as a joke, but it's actually all true. It's 100% true. That is so funny. That is so funny. All right, guys, thank you for watching today. Thank you for listening. I'm Liz Wheeler. This is The Liz Wheeler Show. If you haven't already, give this video a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button below, and ring the bell to make sure you never miss a video.